Today we're being joined by Júlia Donáth, who is a member of the European Parliament representing Hungary, elected in 2019 as representing the Momentum movement, and you are also Vice President of Momentum. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So you came of age in Hungary when Hungary was entering the European Union, and membership in the EU was a driving aspiration for many countries, former communist countries in Eastern Europe. However, the unity of the EU has been tested severely in the last few years, most notably because of the exit of the United Kingdom from the EU, but also by countries and leaders from within the EU, notably Poland, Italy, and your own country of Hungary. How do you, as a progressive member of the European Parliament, sell Europe within Hungary, particularly when your own Prime Minister demonizes the EU so often?
Well, I think we have to highlight that the vast majority of Hungarians are truly pro-European. All the survey shows that around 80% of the population are pro-European. What our government does is a political communication rhetoric only. I think there's many reasons behind it why we are so pro-Europeans. I was a teenager, I was 16 when we joined the EU, and I have a clear memory about the celebration. For our generation, is not a question that we are Europeans. We got lots of possibility as the young generation to work, to study, to go around Europe. We have a European identity. And the older generations has a clear memory about socialism. And for them, the promise of joining the European Union meant that we never, ever gonna stuck in the wrong side of an iron curtain on any kind of division within Europe. So for us, the message of the EU that there is a unity within diversity, that we are stronger together, and this is the key for peace in Europe. It's clearly something that we understand as Hungarians. And I don't even believe that our government would want to leave the EU. I think for us, the most important job is to highlight why we joined the EU and why we want to be a part of this club, what kind of advantage we get from being a part of the European Union, and how far we can grow as a union. Hungary can grow way much further than Europe let us in the 20th century. And now we are living in the 21st century. So we cannot be not pro-European. And this is the message we always have to highlight, that it's better for us to be a part of the union, and we have to be proud Hungarians and Europeans at the same time.
In the last few years, moving to Hungary more specifically, in the last few years, organizations like Reporters Without Borders, Transparency International, Freedom House have all downgraded Hungary's ranking on issues like press freedom, corruption, and democracy in general. What are the biggest challenges for democracy in Hungary right now?
Well, the problems you highlighted in your questions are clearly among them, and they are strongly interlinked with one to another. If I would just say, of course, lack of checks and balances, lack of rule of law, and especially the lack of media freedom, because it's all built up together. It's really difficult to sum up within 1 minute answer what's happening in Hungary, because on paper, we are living in a democracy. We have all the institutions and all the rules and regulations and law. We should protect Hungary as a democracy. However, in practice, is not how it works. I think also the European Union finally realized that this checklist approach towards Hungary doesn't work anymore, because our government misusing its power. They got the 2/3 majority within a fair election. However, after all, they used this power, which let them allow not to consult anymore with opposition, with municipalities, with the civil society sectors, with professionals, because they already have the political power to decide from one night to the other, and they kept making decisions overnights in the past 11 years. And meanwhile, of course, they not just rewrote the constitution, but also they rewrote the electoral system, which made it almost impossible to win back the power. As like the last election, they only got 48%, and it's resulted a 2/3 majority. And of course, they also gradually and systematically destroyed media plurality. Therefore, after 10 years, mostly the governmental propaganda messages going around the country. People doesn't even know what kind of alternative could exist. This is why right now we are joining forces in the opposition, created a 6-party coalition, and try to also use methods to spread our messages, which is out of the box. This is what Momentum kept doing since we started as a party 4 years ago. We are always been better at the streets. We always been better to go person by person, door to door. And I think that the majority of the people wants a change. After 11 years, a lot of people feel that although we are not living in a dictatorship, but there's not that much freedom as they dreamt 10 years ago.
Can you give an example of what the out-of-box messaging and campaigning that Momentum has engaged in looks like?
Well, as Momentum is not just the youngest party on paper, that means that we were the last one of the Hungarian parties to be formulated, but also by age. And of course, we started with our circles, using the tools what youngsters using nowadays, which at the beginning, a lot of people were laughing about us. We created GIFs, we created short videos, we created a lot of fun tools, which right away wouldn't named as political tools. However, you have to find the different channels to reach out to people you want to involve. And we decided that one of the main tasks of our party is to reach out to our generation, because the reason why we created a party as young adults was that we felt that nobody representing us. Everybody is campaigning with retirement issues and taxation issues and so on and so, but nobody cared about the growing unemployment rate within the youngsters, how difficult to start the life. Nobody really cared about particular educational questions that it's really reliable for us. Therefore, we choose methods to make fun of politics. I mean, make it sexy, as we call it. Politics is not for 60+ men in suits in the parliament. For politics is basically about everything what the public is interested, everything is influencing our life, and youngsters has a voice in that. So far, it seems that we were really successful. We are the most favored party within the youngsters, and we're reaching out even to teenagers. We don't think that youngsters means only young adults. I think nowadays youngsters has a clearer vision what they want, and they see a lot of things that maybe other generation can't. But we don't want to make a generational issue out of that. But I think everybody should reach out to those that they can reach out the easiest. And I think we understand well the youngsters' voice. We're using not just different social media platforms, but also the way we communicate. Anybody can reach out to us, and we can grab a beer in a bar and just talk. Of course, now there's pandemic, but we are ready to do our easygoing way of doing politics as we always been.
Hungary has been particularly hard hit. It has the highest number of deaths per capita than any other country in the world. Why has this happened, and what should be the priorities for recovery moving forward?
Well, I believe that this unfortunate high rate of death shows that the Hungarian healthcare system was already falling apart before the pandemic. And one of the biggest sin of this government, there's many unfortunately, but one of them that the past 10 years, they took resources away from education, but mostly healthcare. And we were kept listening that the healthcare system is so difficult to put together to reform it, that it's not a solution to put more money in it because nothing gonna change. However, now it shows that most of the newer generation of doctors and healthcare workers left the country because in the surrounding countries, they need that professional knowledge. And actually, the doctor educational, like the university level of medicine, is really high level all over Europe. Within Europe, the Hungarian university is really well ranked. Many foreign students come here, but they bring in this knowledge back home, and also they bringing Hungarian knowledge to abroad as well. And now in the pandemic, it turned out very well. Our healthcare system falling apart. The infrastructure is not in a level of the 21st century, and there's not enough people. I'm really proud of the healthcare workers in Hungary, because what they did is a kind of a superhero job. I mean, underpaid, understaffed, and they kept working more than a year without stop. So I think that now also the government realized that they have to make changes. There are some small changes, but I think it's a little bit too late. I really hope that this pandemic taught a lesson to not just this government, but for the future governments, that without a stable, well-financed and well-kept healthcare system, the society can fall apart, because nobody knows when another pandemic happening or what's going to happen in the future. And I think that the strategic about vaccination of the government at the end turned out a good decision. As Hungary is one of the countries where most of the people are already vaccinated. However, they did a communicational campaign out of that. They over-politicized that. And that also resulted a lot of failure within Hungary. And also they literally played a Russian roulette with it, because they started to use vaccines that nobody trusted before. However, just the amount of vaccine people won't solve the issue that meanwhile we lost more than 25,000 people. And there's a lot of other death which was resulted that they couldn't kept taken care of. Meanwhile, the pandemic, because all the hospitals had to focus on pandemic infected people. Therefore, we really have to make a reform in healthcare, because in the long run, the most important is the health of the society as well, the knowledge of the society.
You champion human rights and social inclusion issues of minorities, particularly the Roma minority in Hungary. Why is this focus important to you and to the state of Hungary in general?
Well, I'm a sociologist by profession, so naturally I'm sensitive about the vulnerable social groups. And this was always been the most focus point of my political work, as well as the reason why I started to get involved in politics. I'm coming from the civil society sector. I always wanted to give a voice for those ones that nobody listened. And minority groups are those groups in most of the countries. As a member of the European Parliament, if I have a vision what I want to succeed as an MEP is to somehow force European minds that minority politics should be a European competence. Because in each member state, obviously, each government wants to win the next election. Of course, within elections, there are a lot of nice policy ideas, how to involve, how to help, how to include more minority groups, especially the most vulnerable, living in segregation, living in deep poverty, which is the case with the Roma population in Hungary. But when elections coming up, everybody wants to win the majority votes. Therefore, nobody taking care of the interest of the minority groups. So I think the solution would be that it has to become European competence, and Europe has to be stronger, louder about to protect its minorities. Because if you look into the whole issue about majority and minority, we are all somehow a part of a minority groups. As a woman in many political debates, I'm a minority. As a youngster, I became the minority within that group, and there's a lot of other examples. So I think we have to highlight to people that it's not a given fact that I'm a part of the majority, and it's not something. It shouldn't be a disadvantage to be a part of a minority group. We should really take seriously, again, the European motto, unity in diversity. We have to be proud that we are all different, and we have to feel that our national and European society is just richer to be proud of its minorities and protect them. And right now in Hungary, I think the biggest help and the biggest voice needed by the Roma population. Without helping and without giving them a voice, Hungarian society would never be as rich as without them. So I think we have to highlight that we are all the part of the same society, and we have to be proud of each other.
Are you optimistic about the future for your country and for Hungary?
I cannot be not optimistic. Otherwise, I wouldn't become a politician. I mean, everybody has to have a drive inside that want to change, and I want to believe that I can succeed. We can succeed. Nothing lasts forever. I think at least the 20th century taught Europe that there's a lot of things can happen which can make people feel that this is the end of the world, that we cannot stand up from such a situation. This continent survived 2 world wars, genocides, a lot of wars, a lot of conflicts. And now we are living in a continent which is the most peaceful of the world. The future can only be brighter. Of course, there's a lot of things going to happen, but we have to be optimistic, and we have to be creative, and we have to fight for the causes we believe in. And I think in Hungary right now, it is the momentum to do it so. And this is why I started to do politics. I didn't want it to live anymore in a country under Orban regimes. I think our country, Hungary, is not just beautiful and it's full of amazing people, but there's a lot of potential in this country. And it's the newest generation's task to show it and fight for it. It's our future. I lived 7 years in the Netherlands. I can live in abroad. I learned how to live in a different culture. I can even move back there. But my home is Hungary. And I want my kids to call this country as their home. So I think it's my responsibility to fight for it. And I think we're going to succeed, because only pessimistic people who losing hope can lose. So we have all the reason to be optimistic.
Thank you. Well, we will certainly be watching for future elections and hope that momentum does indeed have that momentum.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.